G.K. Chesterton was a wise man, and like many wise men, he had a very highly developed sense of humour and of the potentially ridiculous in many human undertakings. And amongst his many accomplishments, he was a brilliant parodist. I'm going to read a parody called Variations on an Air, composed on having to appear in a pageant as Old King Cole. His way of getting his own back on this experience was to retell the story of Old King Cole in the style of 5 of the eminent poets of his age. And he manages to go beyond the parodist's art in that he not only captures something essential to the style of the poets and lightly makes fun of it, but he also produces poems in their own right. Some of the lines from these parodies remain in my head in the way that great lines of poetry, really only such great lines of poetry can do. So here it is, and Chesterton begins by reminding you of the nursery rhyme. Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his bow, and he called for his fiddlers 3. Now after Lord Tennyson. Cole, that unwearied prince of Colchester, growing more gay with age and with long days, deeper in laughter and desire of life, as that Virginian climber on our walls flamed scarlet with the fading of the year, called for his wassail and that other weed, Virginian also, from the western woods where English Raleigh checked the boast of Spain, and lighting joy with joy, and piling up pleasure as crown for pleasure, bade me bring those 3, the minstrels whose emblazoned coats shone with the oyster shells of Colchester. And these 3 played, and playing grew more fain of mirth and music, till the heathen came, and the king slept beside the northern sea. Now after W.B. Yeats. Of an old king in a story from the grey sea folk I have heard, whose heart was no more broken than the wings of a bird. As soon as the moon was silver and the thin stars began, he took his pipe and his tankard like an old peasant man. And 3 tall shadows were with him, and came at his command, and played before him for ever the fiddles of fairyland. And he died in the young summer of the world's desire, before our hearts were broken like sticks in a fire. Now after Robert Browning. Who smokes, snorts, toasts a maladied nicotine, kicks stuffing out of pussyfoot, bids his trio stick up their Stradivarii, that's the plural, or near enough, my fat heads, nimium vicina cremone, that's a bit too near. Is there some stockfish fails to understand, catch hold of the notion, bellow and blurt back Cole? Must I bawl lessons from a horn hook, howl, catcall the catgut fiddles? Fiddlesticks. Then after Walt Whitman. Me, clairvoyant, me, conscious of you, old camerado, needing no telescope, lorgnette, field glass, opera glass, myopic pince-nez, me, piercing 2,000 years with eye naked and not ashamed. The crown cannot hide you from me. Musty old feudal heraldic trappings cannot hide you from me. I perceive that you drink. I am drinking with you. I am as drunk as you are. I see you are inhaling tobacco, puffing, smoking, spitting. I do not object to your spitting. You prophetic of American largeness, you anticipating the broad masculine manners of these states, I see in you also there are movements, tremors, tears, desire for the melodious. I salute your three violinists, endlessly making vibrations, rigid, relentless, capable of going on forever. They play my accompaniment. But I shall take no notice of any accompaniment. I myself am a complete orchestra. So long. And then finally, after Swinburne. In the time of old sin without sadness, and golden with wastage of gold, like the gods that grow old in their gladness, was the king that was glad growing old. And with sound of loud lyres from his palace, the voice of his oracles spoke, and the lips that were red from his chalice were splendid with smoke. When the weed was as flame for a token, and the wine was as blood for a sign, and upheld in his hands and unbroken the fountains of fire and of wine, and a song without speech, without singer, stung the soul of 1,003, as the flesh of the earth has to sting her, the soul of the sea.